Hey, Rob Cesternino here with Jenny and Chappell, and look who's here. Of course, very sad to see Parvati Shallow. Parvati, how are you?
I'm sad too, Rob. I can't believe I lost to the banker. Everyone else was winning.
Yeah, you were right there. You were safe the whole time. Do you have something that you feel like was what you feel like went wrong for you?
It felt like an out of body experience. Like I wasn't landed or grounded in that moment in the temple. It felt very strange. It's weird being there and it's so quiet. And I don't know numbers. I'm just like, I don't have lucky numbers. I was just like 10, 8, trying my best to get on a hot streak. And it was just 50-50 the whole time. So it just felt like off for me.
Do you think had you gone up against the banker earlier, it would have been different, or is it just because it got to the end
The
and
warm up.
yeah? Do you think you could
No,
have got him
I
out
think
the way?
I felt like a fish out of water up there playing the banker. Like I'm good in challenges. I can think on the fly with strategy. I know how to leverage people and relationships, and I trust my body in an athletic competition. But when it came to just standing there and picking numbers, and I talked to Rob before I went out there, I was like, Rob, because he's a gambler. He's like, Pub, you gotta play the banker every time you get a chance. And I'm like, oh, I don't think I want to do that.
I
Just
I
great with numbers.
so I'm really curious though because the luck component, like your relationships and your challenge prowess is what kept you safe for 9 rounds, which was like a record breaking, and it ultimately comes down to a bad deal with like a 50-50 chance there. Does the luck component of this game make it more or less stressful to play than like Survivor or the Traders? Like, does that relieve you of any stress because it's like ultimately it might just be a bad deal?
Yeah, the luck aspect of Deal or No Deal is like you're playing with an additional competitor. Like on Survivor, the additional competitor is suffering and nature. And on Deal or No Deal, it's like that is removed. You're not suffering. Like you got a beautiful dome, luxury accommodations, food, whatever you need is taken care of. But luck is that extra player that you're playing with. So for me, before I went out, I just did my best to like spiritually get connected, trust. I got into this zone of trust. I was like, the universe, I was using these mantras like, life is always working out for me. The universe is on my side. I was like a self-help meditation tape, like looping in my brain over and over again, like everything's all working out. And it really did. It was so wild. Some of those challenges blew my mind. Like when David and I walked up the mountain and essentially sent everyone down, it was like, wow, I can't believe that they just walked right on down when we told them to. And yeah, it was incredible.
So, Parv, you were in the right mindset. What happened? Did it stop working, or did you somehow get out of the mindset?
I got out of the mindset. I got in my head. I doubted myself because I was standing up there and I was like, ooh, it's like it felt like it was happening too fast and I couldn't get back into my body for that tempo moment. And I was looking over it. I was looking for support from the people in the sidelines, but they don't know shit, Nobody knows
Yeah.
anything.
A lot less people at that point too. It's probably different playing the banker when you've got like the full cast there.
It feels weird. It felt like when you're in school in high school and you have to give like a 3-minute speech on an aardvark and you're like, I don't know anything about this animal.
Hmm.
It was like a bad dream.
Um, so after you go up against the banker, we will find out that you're not done in the game yet, and that you have other duties. Were you considering, as someone who's played these games before, that maybe the eliminated players would have some type of influence at the end of the game?
No, I had no idea. They didn't do that the last season. So they were really shaking things up with this season of Deal or No Deal. And it felt like Final Tribal Council. It felt like there was a jury and the 3 finalists would have a chance to sort of plead their case through these actions. It was like an action-oriented tribal council where we could
Mm.
either help or hurt the people at the end. I think if it had been me at the end, I would have had a hard time because we saw the people getting really adamant that they didn't want a winner to win again. They didn't want someone who'd won $1 million to win another million. They wanted a new person to have a chance. So I was worried for David's chances in that challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get an opportunity, to chat with Philip, because you were paired together for this final challenge? You two were at every stage together. Did that give you time to talk through some of your issues? I'd love to hear like how things went from the beginning where you guys were really close and where things ended up when you're ultimately both out of the game there.
Yeah, Philip and I had a really interesting relationship. I loved him immediately, and I would have gone to the end with Philip. I would have gone to bat with him. I was shocked when he came at me with the when he told me that he'd thought that I was weaponizing his childhood trauma. That really surprised me, and I felt really bad about it. I don't want to hurt him. I found him to be a very sweet guy, and I cared about him. So I also know it's hard to play these games when you're new and you've never had this experience before. The betrayal feels so deep and so real, and the loss of trust hurts. And so I can give people that kind of grace. And I underestimated the fact that Philip really didn't trust me. Like, he was looking at me as if I was the Black Widow from 20 years ago. Like, he wasn't relating to me in the present moment. So really what happened, when we never got back on the same page inside of the game, but as soon as he was eliminated at Temple and then I lost to the banker, he was sitting in the van waiting for me. So like, we rode back to the hotel together in the van, and we were fine, like immediately fine. As soon as the game was over and we were done with that kind of confusing gray area of, do I trust you? Can I not? Are you trying to get me? Are you not? It was just gone. He and I are good. Like, he's a buddy. I think he's so sweet and I love him.
Parv, one of the things I thought was very impressive was that how quickly you were able to clock David from Australian Survivor. Parv, I didn't know you were such a consumer of Australian Survivor.
Well, I am now.
You were studying?
Maybe not for this.
Yeah.
Research.
But what was
I
your
know.
reaction that you ended up like, oh my, like, what are the chances that of all the people, I'm here with David?
I could not believe it. My jaw hit the floor when I saw David was out there. I had agreed to play Survivor Australia versus the World before I'd agreed to play Dondi. So they'd already sent me some links to start watching Australian Survivor. So I was familiarizing myself with some of the Australian characters, and I was in the hotel in the undisclosed location that we film on
Sure.
for the Bankers Island. And I was watching David's season of Australian Survivor. And then I saw him on the island, and I was like, oh my God.
Am I hallucinating?
Yes. I was like, wait, what are you doing here? Because I was told it was going to be like a Rob season where I was the Rob of the season. I was going to be the only known reality person out there. And then David's there. And I was like, do they think I don't know this guy? I don't think they thought that I would know him. I
Yeah.
think they thought he was going to get everybody. But little
Yes.
did they know.
Yeah. It
I
could have
was
been a
ready
lot
for that.
worse with some of these other people from Australian Survivor too.
Yeah, I got really lucky because he is sort of the male version of me when he plays. We play very similar games. It worked so
Well,
well.
you got really lucky, but then also Dr. Will shows up. Can you tell us a little bit about your interactions with Dr. Will throughout the season?
Why you gotta bring him back in? You shall not be named. No, we had a really hard time in the game together because Will is like my epitome of kryptonite. Like, I don't want him around me at all, like in a game like that, because he puts on this big persona and comes in with this like big act of he's in charge, and if he's not here, the game, he told me, if I didn't come in, this would be a slow death march to the end. I have come in to single-handedly save this game that is so boring without me. And I was like, well, you're giving yourself a lot more credit than you deserve. I was like, these people are actually really interesting, and there's a lot of drama happening here without you. So it's kind of going to be fine if you leave. But yeah, he and I did not see eye to eye. And I told him at one point too, I was like, if gameplay is a spectrum, then I am on this end and you are on this end. And we are like, there's no meeting in the middle for us. But David helped me with him because David was like, soften your heart to Will.
Oh,
Like, I know. He was like, just
I can
you
see
don't
this.
be so dug your heels in, just soften your heart to him. You might be able to work with him in some way. And I was like, fine. So I would talk to Will a little bit. And when I saved him with the ring challenge, I was like, maybe we can work together. Let's kind of figure it out. And then it just wasn't going to happen with us. But outside the game, he's fine.
that's
Do you
good.
blame?
Yeah.
That counts.
Yeah,
Do you
like
blame
outside, it's kind
him?
of like a Philip thing, like outside the game. It's like, oh, people
Yeah.
drop the act outside of the game and then they can be real people. And that's all I needed from him.
So he obviously comes in and one of the first things he says in front of everyone is who you are, and where he knows you from, blowing your cover with some of the people that may have not known your history. We obviously saw that you had like a lot of individual conversations with people before that about, letting them in on like, this is our little secret. Do you blame him for how much of a target you become, at that point in the game? Do you feel like you could have kept those relationships separate and kept your secret a little bit longer?
I think I could have kept it a little longer. People were not talking to each other. It was really shocking. But when he came in and he blew me up, it was fine because I knew it was going to happen sooner or later at some point, and I'd already accepted that. And that's really how I approached this game specifically, is not a game about control. It's about full acceptance. Just deal with whatever's happening in the moment as it's happening and make the adjustments accordingly. So when Will did that, I was like, okay, game on. Now I got to go do some damage control with these people and see if it was an issue. But I realized something really interesting was, if I didn't make a big deal out of it, they didn't either. And they already had so much kind of interpersonal drama going on amongst themselves that it didn't really matter. It was like kind of fascinating. And they were already targeting me anyway. So I was like, oh, well, now it's just all out in the open. So fine.
Parv, you had such an interesting relationship with CK. Can you talk about what that was like for you, the on again, off again nature of your relationship?
I loved CK. I found her to be someone who was so fun to play with because her mind was always strategizing. And I love people like that because it's just like she's constantly thinking and can't stop. And then we can have these conversations and strategize about things and kind of play out different scenarios. And those are the most fun allies to have, especially if they're emotionally volatile and especially if they respond to um, being rejected or feeling like they're not now on the outside of your good graces. So with CK, I was like, I would use my anger or I'm displeased with you, kind of like a school teacher who was like mad at the kid for being naughty. And then she would try to like get back in my good graces. And that was kind of a fun game to play. And then I would also help her calm down because she would get really spun out about certain things. But because I'm such a reality vet and I've played so many games, I didn't want to feel like I was just stomping on people, like I know so much more than them. So I wanted to like help encourage them to grow and become their best gamer selves out there too. So that was also a really fun aspect of Deal or No Deal for me. Because
I
you
know
don't
you.
have to be strategizing all the time. You really
Yeah.
don't. You can kind of wait until the challenge happens. Then after the challenge, then you can do your strategizing.
Parvati, can you tell us a little bit more about the family? It looks like at the end you wanted to go to the end with David, who I guess would not have had the same kind of the same kind of like issue that you would have being a winner and nobody else knowing. Were you concerned that if you went to the end with him, he would probably get away with that and you wouldn't?
Well, after learning what the end challenge was, yeah, that would have been, he probably still would have beat me at the end if I had been there because people would, well, everyone was kind of talking about, yeah, if it had been me, David, and CK at the end, which was my ideal final three, I think David would have given me a run for my money at the end. because he came out love bombing everyone so hard. He was like, "Oh, I love you. Thank you. You're the best. Isn't this fun?" And everyone was just kind of knocked sideways by his like good attitude. So, yeah, I mean, it probably would have ended up the same as it ended up this time had I been at the end. He still probably would have beat me. But I didn't know because the last final on Dondi was just a physical challenge.
Yeah.
And I had been beating David in the challenges. Like, I think if that final challenge that I did with the bag split had just been an endurance challenge, I would have beat him.
Mm.
But it wasn't. So I don't know. They just kept us on our toes with those challenges. They kept changing them.
All right. Well, Parv, I know you got to run. Real quick, got anything fun that you're working on you want to tell people about?
Where
Yes.
the book.
Oh, the book. If you want to learn how to become a masterful gamer in your life, pick up my book. No, it's a memoir. It's called Nice Girls Don't Win. And it starts with, it's really like my origin story, how I came to be who I am today. And I wrote it as a service project to help people who are feeling stuck in their lives, like stuck in a career, relationship, or anywhere in their life where they're feeling like, I don't want to be here. I know I'm made for something bigger, better than this. And I kind of move you through with my own story through Survivor, getting cast on Survivor. I tell those stories and then move you out the other side to a place of empowerment and alignment so you can live your best life. That was essentially like the purpose of the book, but it really is my story. So if you're a Survivor fan, Traitors fan, you'll really enjoy it, I think, too.
All right.
That also, I am executive producing and now moving into hosting, and I'm relaunching my villains course. So if you guys want to work with me,
Okay.
if anyone from Rob Has a Podcast wants to work with me in coaching, join the course, How Villains Are Made. We're doing our groundbreaking, like a really fun course, and starting in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Ooh.
Well, Parv, anytime you want to come back and talk about any of this stuff, open invitation. In the meantime, all the best. Okay.
Thank you, guys. It
All
was
right.
nice
Take care.
to meet you.
Bye.
Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.